We're very interested in how Pink Floyd's 1973 magnum opus, The Dark Side of the Moon, syncs with every movie ever made. Welcome to Sync Floyd. My name is the Gareth Blackler, your host on this podcast, but joining me, the co-tenant of hostage on this podcast. Hostage, not to be confused with hostage. Although sometimes I'm sure he feels that way doing a podcast with me.
Whoa.
Please welcome the James Barron. Hello.
Hi there, it's the James Barron. I'm the tenant that pays only in fish, and you're trying to get rid of me, but you do put up with me because I've got a tender heart and soul. Hi. How's it going?
Oh.
Welcome back to Sync Floyd, everyone's favorite podcast.
Full stop.
About full stops. No, about Pink Floyd and how it syncs with every movie ever made. Yeah. What's up?
What is up? Just hanging. Just watched a pretty spooky movie and very, very interested. To quote two characters from this film, very interested. James, what do you think about the trend of putting that in the front of movies so people think it's a different movie, e.g. The Suicide Squad and The Batman?
I don't know. I don't like it as a sequel, like a sequel title style. That it especially annoyed me with Suicide Squad into The Suicide Squad. That's so frustrating. I do kind of hope though that they finish a trilogy with a Suicide Squad. That would be the correct move. But it's still bad from an optics standpoint because, like, surely I feel like search result wise, if you type in The Suicide Squad, you just get both movies. But I don't know for sure. Maybe we should rebrand as The Pink Floyd. Because Pink Floyd were originally The Pink Floyd Experience.
Really?
That was their full... I think that was their full title and name, I think. Either that or it was that's a cover band that exists.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on Pink Floyd, even though I claim to be, but I am an expert on how it syncs with movies such as The House 2022.
Yes, not to be confused with House 1977, which we've also covered.
Yeah.
Or The House of Gucci.
Or House on Haunted Hill. Or...
which we also covered.
Yeah. What other... Or House, the TV series.
Yeah. House Music.
Yeah. Monster House is another film. Monster House 2 coming out as a sequel.
Really?
Yeah. They should rebrand it as The Monster House, though, for better optics. Yeah, the House, a 2022 release on Netflix. I believe, straight to Netflix, right?
Yeah. It wasn't initially ordered by Netflix. I think it was made and then sold to Netflix.
I see.
But yeah, spooky anthology series of stop motion.
Yeah.
And what I'm even more interested to know, James, is what did you think of it?
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. It's not quite your full Oogie Boogie. I wouldn't give it my Oogie Boogie seal of approval that has Slimer pictured on it, but it is it's semi Oogie Boogie. It's not too scary. I would say it's just more kind of unsettling, especially the first two sections of this movie, because as you say, it's an anthology story kind of film with three separate parts. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a really cool concept. It's sort of a it's four directors technically, because there's two people who did the first film, the first section. And three different stories all set in the same house. It feels very like Exquisite Corpse game, if you've ever heard of that. Like you're all working off the same foundations, effectively, if you'll excuse the pun. But building off of that and creating something together. I think that's really cool as a concept for a film, and it led to some fun stories. So yeah, also it's an animated feature, and I'm a big fan of animation and stop motion, which this is. So yeah, I loved it. What about yourself?
I very quickly have to shout out a movie called Exquisite Corpse, which is all available on YouTube. It's really interesting. It's a half documentary, half the actual movie where a bunch of people wrote a script together, but they were only allowed to see the previous handful of pages. So the movie just jumps around, and then there's behind the scenes of how they wrote it, of them watching it together, and then also gets really deep about their friendship. It's a really interesting, cool movie that confused the hell out of the flatmate I was living with, who kept walking past and watching these characters do weirder and weirder things. But as for The House, thoroughly loved it. I think I enjoyed it more the second time watching it with Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I think I did too, actually.
Yeah. I think maybe it's because there's a chance to kind of settle in and know what you're in for. Especially the first story, you kind of need that. Because it is an Oogie Boogie that's luckily put off by two less Oogie Boogies.
Yes.
It's a spooky time. But yeah, I loved it. I think it's really cool. It's like the studio just got together some exciting animators that they liked who'd made stop motion short films.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, they all collaborated together on building this actually building the house that's in it, designing what that will look like together, and then just going off to tell these wildly different stories. It's a good time.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I can't wait to talk about it. So yeah, spoiler-free recommendation. Check this one out. It's on Netflix, so streamable for you.
Yeah.
If you're down for a bit of a spooky time. But yeah, I would agree in that they get the first one comes in hard as a Oogie Boogie, and then it gradually takes its foot off the gas in terms of spooks. It's not scary. There's no real jump scares, except one comes to mind, I guess, but not really a horror movie. More of a thriller, I would say, in a weird way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready and excited to talk about it. If you are.
Yeah. I'm ready and excited to talk about it too, and I hope the listeners are ready and or excited. Some might be excited, but not ready, and they're just going to give it a little pause.
Oh, yeah.
Jump back a few seconds, and then again.
The headphones keep falling out because they're just too excited. They're jumping around, and it's I need to calm down just a little bit to enjoy the podcast.
Oh, that's my new favorite listener.
Yeah.
We love you, nervous dog with headphones in.
That's how I hope. That's how I imagine all of our listeners to be. Okay, let's talk about...
Hop on your thunder shirts, listeners. Let's sync this movie with Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
The Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, true. It's not... We say...
A lot of people forget about that, though.
We do say Dark Side of the Moon pretty much every time, but it is the Dark Side of the Moon, so there you go.
Yeah.
The moon, too. Man.
Dark Side of Moon.
Dark Side of Moon?
Yeah, gonna pop on Dark Side of Moon. Have a listen.
Oh, from the Pink, the Floyd. Okay, let's do it. Opening title, speak to me, etc. The opening titles of this movie are cool. They're very arty, very MC-ishery, I would say. The depictions of the interior of the house and the design of the house with warping geometry and stuff. It looks quite nice. Almost like a sort of lino cut kind of look as well. It's quite short and quite fun. And then we pretty much go straight into the first story. Each of the sections of this movie have their own subtitle, which form kind of like a poem, I guess. They don't really match anything to do with the story that they're telling, but that's fine. I will read them all now, just so that you know.
Yeah.
First part is and heard within a lie is spun, which is a lot. Second part is then lost is truth that can't be won. And the third part is listen again and seek the sun. So yeah, it all rhymes. It's all very good. Doesn't mean anything though.
Honestly, the titles are the scariest part of this film, really.
For real, yeah. I thought I was going to get some kind of divine intervention or something when I heard this. I was like, is this yeah. And then especially after the first story played out, I was worried that they were all going to be similar kind of fables, because this first one reads to me very much like a grim fairy tale style story, and that it appears to be a fable, and set in like indistinct time period of the past, pre-technology, etc. And then like it's. Yeah, the thing about it is that it reminds me of it in more ways than one, because the issue that I have with a lot of grim fairy tales is that you are introduced to characters that are like hard done by and like aren't well to do. They've got like very little resources. Like the one that comes to mind all the time is Hansel and Gretel, like these poor little kids that are like literally disowned by their parents because they can't afford to feed them and sent into the woods, and like are somehow taught a lesson, I guess, about like consumption when they encounter a witch and nearly die. I don't know. It's the moral becomes unclear like the longer you go through it, and it just appears to be like a dark story. And this is very similar. I would say that the moral of this story is vaguely like anti like consumerism, I guess, or like opulence, like be happy with what you have, I guess is the lesson. But like you're introduced to these characters and then they are just sort of shown to be like they're like very poor people, and then they get looked down on by other people who are rich, and then they like get a taste of that rich life, but no, it's all some kind of horrible dark trick played on them. And I'm like, is that a good lesson? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just very similar feeling and energy to a grim fairy tale. But anyway, we'll roll into the story proper. That's just my like preemptive read on this section. So I needed to get that out of the way first.
You've got a good point. The fairy tales feel like they're just punishing people who already have it bad, whereas like the kind of more modern way to tell a story is maybe they'd get rich and then they'd figure out like, oh, it was better how it was, and then get to return.
Exactly.
Whereas these characters don't get to return.
No.
So you're just like, okay.
Yeah, it's messed up because you're shown other characters in the like privileged position that aren't punished in any way. But as soon as these people that like want that thing, the desire of it is the thing that is being punished, and that's weird as a lesson. But I don't know. Anyway.
No, absolutely.
Let's do it. So we roll into Breathe, basically, for this intro section. We've got this small family of Mabel, a young girl who's like playing with toys, and a large doll's house, notably, which is not the exact house, but it's very close in shape and design to the house from the title, which we will see later. But I do like that it's like we get like the house and then you're shown a house like immediately. Yeah. That's just tidy. And yeah, so Mabel lives with her parents, Raymond and Penny, and her little sister, Isabel, in like a small cottage in the woods. Design style as well. These are like human people for this intro section, but everything is made out of like felt. And it's deeply unsettling. Like the style of that they've done these, just the people, all their facial features are very close together in the center of a very large face.
Big fuzzy face.
Yeah, and everything in this world is like felt and fuzzy, and it's unsettling like from the get-go just based on art style, which is it's very cleverly done. But I don't think I could do a full film of this, so I'm glad that it's just for this section. It's like this. We'll encounter like other styles going forward, and I appreciate that this movie doesn't like dwell in this it doesn't overstay this art style, I would say. So we got this young family, and the dad is introduced lighting a fire in the fireplace, which I think is another really great call forward. And there are these nasty like relatives who are coming to visit, from the big city or something. And they arrive, and they're these nasty old ladies and old gents in top hats. And yeah, they're here just to basically like look down on this family's way of life and be horribly judgmental of of them like living in squalor, apparently. It's pretty rough. I do really enjoy Georgie here, who is like one of these boys, but he's like a complete simpleton, which is very funny. So yeah, we go into On the Run like throughout this conversation, and then we see like it cuts away from here with them basically scolding Raymond for not like living up to his family reputation. He's from like a reasonably rich family, but has like come out here and built a life for himself, but that isn't good enough for these rich people.
Yeah.
And so it sends him into sort of a shame spiral of drinking. And he just sits in front of this fireplace and then goes out in the middle of the night in like a drunken stupor and huff. And he's like out in the woods pissing on a tree when a mysterious carriage or palanquin or something out in the middle of the woods here just appears with no, it's like it looks like a palanquin with no person or horse or anything driving it, which is unusual. And inside there's a very like eerie light coming out of it. It's very like, it reminded me very like E.T. vibes, honestly. And yeah, we are in mid on the run for this, and we get a fantastic subtitle provided by Netflix saying suspenseful music intensifying, which is my first thing. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he goes into this palanquin, and we don't hear the conversation. There's like an old person in there, an old man, which we can see like through the little blinds or anything, but we can't hear what they're saying. He suddenly, we cut back to the house, not the house, sorry, the cottage.
A house.
And he comes home very suddenly, Raymond, and freaks out Penny and like demands food and wine be brought for him, and like gorges himself on this stuff and says that all their problems are solved before like promptly falling asleep into his own dinner. It's like it all feels very extraterrestrial encounter vibe, and that like he's come back like a completely different person, like it's very, very intense, and then like falls asleep. It just reminds me so much of like Close Encounters with the like mashed potato tower that he makes. Like he's like tripping out after this like life-changing experience, you know, like that exact feeling.
Yeah.
Falls asleep in his dinner, and we get a really nice match cut of him in the next morning with his face still in the dinner, but then a man is in the background, like looking through the window, and it's very creepy. Like that shot in of itself, like showing like man asleep at night and then in the morning someone watching him is fucking terrifying. Like,
yeah,
one of the scariest shots in the movie for me, even though it's like basically fine.
Yeah, it's like immediately shown why he was there.
But I was just like, oh god. Like anytime there's like an unexplained background person watching, it's like very scary. Because he's like staring down the lens as well. It's like, it's messed up. We get the crash sound basically over this as well. Like shortly after we see this guy. I feel like the crash sound aligns with you registering that he's there. So yeah,
it's Pink Floyd getting scared and like hitting their synthesizer.
Exactly. Yeah. This guy comes around the front door, and it's Mr. Thomas is his name, and he is here to negotiate an agreement that was made last night with Raymond. So he comes in, and Raymond has now woken up, and he explains that he has entered into agreement where there's this lavish house that is going to be built for them for absolutely free by a renowned architect named Mr. Van Schoenbeek. which I'm going to have to say a lot of times, but so get ready for that. And the only requirement is that they move from their house and stay in this new house that is going to be built for them. Like that's the only requirement, that they have to live there. And so it's a bloody good deal. And yeah, he's like an artist. He's painted as this like extremely eccentric architect who is like wants to design this amazing house. And so yeah, they sign on the dotted line because who wouldn't accept that deal?
Yeah, like living in a city where there is a housing crisis.
Yeah,
I've joked for many years about like, and then the eccentric billionaire will just take pity on me and I'll get a house.
Exactly, right?
Like, yeah, I wouldn't read any fine print if that was to happen.
Yeah, you would fall for the Van Schoenbeek trap every time. You know?
Oh, constantly, day after day. I would, escape a Van Schoenbeek house and immediately get tricked by him again.
Yeah, exactly. It's just too good a deal.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is really about. The 2022 housing shortage in New Zealand.
Oh, you joke, but you hang on to that thread, and I'm going to get you through this labyrinth because by the end of it, I could easily argue that into an English essay.
You drop the breadcrumbs behind us, and I'll follow it home, Gareth. I'm very excited. So they sign on the line, and then they see construction of this house taking place up on the hill that like towers above their house in the distance. Like they've got a view straight from their house up to this hill. Pretty good. They in a very short time, because we get a jump cut basically, the house is finished and they arrive with all their possessions. I do like that their dad is like pulling this like cart of all their stuff, and the kids are very excited on the cart there. It looks really nice. They come up to this beautiful house, this like 3-story house. To describe the house, man, it's got 3 like circular windows at the top center. It's got like a big old door. It's got like a conservatory kind of thing at the top, like a lookout kind of point. And there's like it's the same house for all 3 movies, obviously. And it's so good and tactile. You can really tell that they mapped this whole house out like perfectly. And then just like change the interior of it, like different colors and shapes and things like that, and then just played around with it. It's like a literal doll's house. It's very, very fun. Just seeing it develop over the course of these 3 stories. So I'm very excited to get into it. So they arrive, and Mr. Thomas greets them at the door and lets them in. Mr. Thomas like comments on them like bringing all this stuff. He says you don't need it because the house is fully furnished, and Raymond is upset because some of the furniture that he has brought has been as like family heirlooms, and so Mr. Thomas says he'll store them somewhere in the house. It'll be okay, but the house is fully furnished, so they will want for nothing basically. So Mr. Thomas gives them like a tour of the interior of the house, and we go, it's got like this really lovely like cornered stairwell in the entryway, and they go up and there's like long hallways. The decor inside is very Overlook Hotel though. There's a lot of like circular patterned carpets and wallpapers that are immediately threatening to me personally. But they go on this tour, and they as they are going, Mabel spots through open doorways like workmen who are repairing and changing rooms on the interior. And every time she spots them, they like are completely motionless and just stare at her silently, which is horrifying. These workmen like every time without fail just like have a good scare. They don't seem human, which is really good. It's like deer cornered headlights kind of look. So they go around and in love with the house, and they go and have a dinner, like their first night there, and food is like magically prepared for them, like, and they comment on like who makes the food, and they're like, well, I assume our servants make the food. They don't actually know like where any of this stuff is coming from. It's very like dream state feeling.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting as well that the dad assumes servants immediately. Like,
Yeah.
he's already
It's
become the kind of person.
Exactly, yeah. He's like, he doesn't want to question it too much. He's like, it's already too good to be true. So it's like, wow, I guess it must be servants, right? Like, I don't know. That's what goes in a big fancy house. So it must be. That's the logic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no one's like suspicious of it. They're just enjoying it. At this stage, yeah, everyone goes off to bed. Except for the kids go off to bed. Sorry, and the parents like go back to like the sitting room area where they were before. The mum Penny comments on that there's no curtains and immediately gets to work making curtains at this sewing machine that's provided with this very nice green fabric that's been all set up for her. And Raymond goes over to the fireplace and tries to start a fire. As we're in time. We're partway through time here, like right after the tempo change, and the Floyd boys sing "Home, Home Again," and then sing "It's Good to Warm My Bones Beside the Fire" as the fireplace is like going out. Because Raymond is unable to light a fire in this fireplace, no matter what he tries. And as he's doing this, he's just sort of staring into the fireplace as this fire is going out. And in the background, Van Schoenbeek is just there, like laughing creepily, and no one is noticing. It's again very scary, very like ghosts kind of feeling. Yes. So yeah, like they, the parents over the course of this, like basically become completely like mesmerized by this new lavish lifestyle. They, the mum like works through the night on these curtains, and the Raymond like falls obsessed with this fireplace as well in the same room, which refuses to light. And they just sort of sit there and are both like driven to the point of exhaustion, where they're like neglecting their kids over these pursuits. Like the kids come in and have to like wake them up at their posts because they've like forgotten what they were doing. It's scary. Meanwhile, the house itself is still in a state of modification. Like the kids get up in the morning. Mabel gets up and tries to like come downstairs to see her parents, but the stairs are gone. They've been like knocked out entirely. And she calls out to Mr. Thomas, and he's like, "Oh yes, Mr. Van Schoenbeek is making changes to the layout, and he's not satisfied with his vision currently. So you'll be able to. There's a temporary access way in this room, and it's just like a ladder going through the floor. Like, yeah, completely nonsensical. These changes, and they only get worse. I think also when she like wakes up, before when she went to bed, she looked out her window and there was a view of their old house from the window, because obviously they're up on the hill and looking out the window over the valley, and they see their house at the bottom of the hill. But in the morning, there's like another room in front of this view, like being constructed from the inside. It's really weird, like a window onto another room. But that's the like level of illogical that is going on here. So Mabel spends the day like exploring her house, exploring this house, and like running into these like creepy workmen all the time. And she eventually runs into her father, who is like looking out the window and sees and laughing at something. And she like looks out to see what he's looking at, and it's their old house being torn down. To which like Raymond is laughing at and says, "I guess they need the material to like continue building the house." And he's just like laughing about that. It's like very, very strange. He's fully like taken over here.
It's like to say he's, moved on. He's laughing at the like misfortune of his past self.
Yeah,
but he's also like so taken over by a weird energy and like laughing so creepily that it's like pushed that way past its extreme to be like,
it just feels like
Daddy's
supernatural. Yeah. Like he's like gone like a body snatcher. Like both of the parents feel body snatched at this time. But he's just like laughing about that. A bit later in the evening, Mabel goes to like see her parents. I think like no food has been prepared for them because they're getting hungry and like are looking around for the parents and gonna ask them what's going on. And she runs into her parents in that same room, and costumes have been made for them. These strange, like Dr. Seuss nightmare outfits, effectively. Big flowy fabrics, both green, with like strange top knot on dad and like big flowy dress on mum. And they look very unusual, and Mr. Van Schoenbeek has designed them to like go with the house as like outfits, which is hilarious as a detail. Mabel says that they look very silly, and Raymond, like in a fit of like anger, demands that she apologize. Right as we go into money here, it's like very dark. The turn here, where he's just like yelling at anyone calling out like at anything going on in this house as being strange. He's very anti that now. Again,
it's got big Roald Dahl energy.
Yeah,
the idea of a child being the one to see through the what the adults have been fooled by.
Yeah. You're right on the money there. Absolutely. Like Matilda vibes as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mabel is awoken in the night by Isabel, the little baby sister, wanting to go somewhere. And she like wanders off, like crawls very quickly away from Mabel. Mabel's incredibly slow, by the way, because she's very small in this house. She's got tiny little felt legs. And so doesn't move very quickly. All the doors are like 4 times her height. Isabel like wanders away down this like hidden corridor in the side with no door, which is again very good. Just like a blind corridor off the side of a wall, and leads them down into the basement of the house. Which again, I love that this comes back as well. Like there's this like secret basement in this section, which is obviously like a terrifying location, but like it's just also just a real basement of the house. In later parts, which is good. And so they go down into this basement and they get lost there for a little bit. And then they find in here all the stored items from their old house, down to the point that like everything from their house is in here. It seems like when they're down here, they're actually in their old house. It's set up the same. It's like a house within a house is the feeling that I get. Not explicit, but like that is the vibe. Like they sort of set up shop in here and amongst all their old things and pretend like they're in their old house, like read stories and stuff. It's very sweet. So they in the morning come up from the basement because again they're getting hungry, trying to like get some food. And in the darkness, fucking Mr. Thomas is down here in the darkness, is just weeping uncontrollably, and a giant man appears behind him, like an enormous bald person. Appears without explanation. Like, this is the only jump scare I think in the whole film, and it's fucking unsettling, and it's just not explained. Like, I was like, what the fuck was up with the giant man when I finished this? Like, I was like,
on the second watch when you're like, hang on, this guy doesn't come back.
No, it's just very scary. Like, I don't know what his deal is. Maybe he's like a heavy of Van Schoenbeek who's like ensuring that Thomas does his job. It's just not explained. It's very weird. very disturbing. Because he's so big. He's like twice as big as Mr. Thomas. Oh, God. Anyway. So they climb up these stairs, the basement stairs, to find that the house has been like completely rearranged and changed. Like the interior is like all wood and unfinished, as if the workmen are like still working on it. But it's become like a maze of like unstained, untreated wood, which they get lost in. And they're just stuck in here, wandering around. The parents, meanwhile, are still obsessed with their various things. Mr. Raymond is just staring blankly into the fireplace, which is unlit, and Penny is just running fabric through the sewing machine with her like head on the table, like basically asleep and on autopilot. It's deeply disturbing. And like Mr. Thomas comes in and like congratulates Penny on doing a great job making all the lovely curtains, but she doesn't even respond because she's like not conscious. And Raymond calls out to him and asks him if he can help with lighting this fireplace. And Mr. Thomas disappears and then comes back with Raymond's old chair from his old house, and says, "Oh yes, I thought I would bring this up." And because it's something that from your past. And Raymond's like, it doesn't really go with anything in the house. We've got such lovely chairs here. I know what to do with it. And he burns the chair. He literally like burns his past. Mr. Thomas says, if you need any more things, you'll find more down in the basement, referring to all of his old things. So it's very on the nose with money playing in the background.
Yeah.
I tell you that. There's a very bizarre shot with the fireplace now lit and these two lights flickering in the windows. Like I believe like the curtains are drawn over one of the three windows here, but there are these two lit up windows, and the house itself like melds into a laughing version of Van Schoenberg's face, which I didn't catch on my first watch. I didn't even see it as a thing, but it's very weird as an idea. He is the house, I guess. I don't know. It's his curse or something anyway. The kids have been like wandering around this maze all through the night and like have fallen asleep up here because they can't get anywhere. And so they're just like sleeping next to a lantern. It's very, very sad. And they see through a hole in the floor that Raymond is pulling up all the stuff from the basement, all of their old things, including the dollhouse that belongs to Mabel, to be burned in the fire. And they call out to him, like saying, "We're hungry and we're lost, help!" And he doesn't respond. He just keeps going forward, zombie-like, on his mission here. Very scary. They wander around through the maze again, and they come across Mr. Thomas again, who is trapped in here as well, who's like surrounded by bottles. Like he's been drinking and crying up here. He's like completely distraught. And Mr. Thomas reveals that he is a paid actor. He's not really like a house servant guy. He's just an actor that Van Schoenbeek has hired and gives him a script every day to follow. He says, he tells me to say things to you and do things, which is just like, really, phrased in like the worst possible way.
That's why he's an actor. He's only supposed to be reading from a script. He's not supposed to be saying the stuff himself.
Yeah, God. Thomas, God damn. I guess he's the only one that like sees the horribleness that's happening here, other than the kids, obviously. And so he's like dealing with it in the only way that he can, and is under the thumb of this giant who's oppressing him. So don't know what's going on there. But anyway, he says he can't do it anymore and is just like bursting into tears. Mabel like runs quickly to try and find the exit, and Raymond, meanwhile, has put the household items into the old house's items into the fireplace to burn, including Mabel's dollhouse. And yeah, so when Mabel enters the room, there's the dollhouse sitting in the fireplace, like on fire, which is just a great image. And it resembles the house that they're currently in. There's a little bit before this where he puts Raymond puts the dollhouse into the fire, and we just see the parents standing side by side with Van Schoenbeek's palanquin behind them, just in the center of the room. It was in the forest earlier, and now it's just here magically. It's very scary. Van Schoenbeek is just this. I don't understand what his deal is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mabel runs in with this house on the fire, and she runs in and tries to look around for the parents, but they have transformed. They've become the items which they idolize. Raymond has transformed into like a plush armchair with like a little face made of buttons, and Penny has become the curtains that she worked to create, her face being like a tie on the curtains. It's a horrifying, again, very like Fable-y, like becoming like an item, or being cursed to transformed into a lesson teaching thing, and yeah, so they have awoken from their curse here and call out to Penny to save herself and save Isabel and run from the house. And the room starts catching on fire from the fireplace, which is now setting ablaze the real house with this roaring fire. And Penny calls out to Mabel to save herself, and they descend down the side of the building Rapunzel style, using the mum curtains as a rope. Which is the only way to describe that.
Spot on.
It's a weird sentence, but it checks out. They make it down into the snow again, very The Shining-esque. They wander out into the snow away from the burning building, and we look back at the house, which is smoldering but still standing on the hill, with the sun rising behind it, as we go into the Us and Them solo, saxophone solo. That's the first part of the house.
What did you think, and how did it sync?
Honestly, micro edition. Pretty good, honestly. Quite a few things lining up here, I would say. For a dark fable, I think Pink Floyd is an excellent soundtrack.
A sense of very British terror.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spot on for Pink Floyd.
I did forget to say, actually, about the voice cast is all British, basically, and very British, which works great, especially for this dark fairy tale story. But also going forward, all the voice cast is very well done, and all the sound mixing and everything in this movie is great too. All the Foley work is very well thought out, and it's good. It builds a real sense of place, and It's another highlight for this film, for sure. But we aren't hearing any of that. Pink Floyd's more important.
So let's continue our mad quest with part 2 of this film.
Yes.
That first part was directed by Emma D. Swaith, according to my handwriting, and Mark James. Mm-hmm. The second part is directed by Nicky Lindroff von Bar.
Yes.
And it is called Then Lost is Truth, That Can't Be Won.
Yes. Apparently, the most famous of the directors before this, apparently.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of her, but I did, I have looked up her other stuff, and it's very similar to this, and
Okay.
So, retroactively the most famous for me.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's very it's different in vibe, but still similar to the previous story, in that we have a very dark tale unfolding, but in a completely different way. So that's very fun, obviously. So yeah, we're, as a reminder, we're in Us and Them sax solo. We open on stacked garbage outside of this house with like scaffolding up beside it. It's the same house, obviously, but like we are now in the modern day. It's on like a busy city street. It looks like London-esque out here, and yeah, it's amongst other houses, etc. And yeah. But still, like, I think we're still like up on a hill. I think like topographically we're still the same, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, this house is like next to it, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's room on top of a hill.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, in this second story, we get a really slow and deliberate reveal. I think that our main character is completely different in this story, and that he is a anthropomorphic rat.
Yes, did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's great. It's just like you expect it to be like more of the creepy people from the last story, and they deliberately put him behind like tinted glass. While he's having like a phone conversation with somebody, I think the bank at this stage. And then, yeah, we get a reveal of him walking out from behind it, and he's this huge rat. And it's like, oh, cool, okay, this is a different kind of feel. And yeah, this character is just called The Developer. And yeah, he is a property developer. That's what he does as a trade, but he's like down on his luck and has bought this house that has again become his obsession. Like this is his like main project that is occupying his whole thought process. And it's eaten up all of his financials to the point where at the start of the film here, he's fired his construction crew and is going to be like doing the fit out of this house himself. Because he's like sunk so much already into the house. And yeah, it's just cool, like as a parallel that in this, the house is always being obsessed over, like across all three of these stories. There's like a character who is completely obsessed with this house. And I think that's great. As like a joining feature.
Yeah. And for my English year 10 essay at the end, remember that fact. Remember that there's always someone obsessed.
Okay. So he's working on the house, and he's also living here, and because we introduced to him in the basement, which is where he's like actually physically staying while he works on this house. So presumably he's like has no other home or has like had to give that up to work on this. But yeah, it's like it's consumed his whole life, this house, and it's his big chance to like come back in a big way as well. It's like a great opportunity. So yeah, he's talking on the phone a heck of a lot for most of this movie. He like has like a Bluetooth headset in his little mouse ear, and is just talking to the bank and to an unknown at the start here character who he's calling Darling, and is updating on the house's progress. Basically, he's like telling them all about like how the project's going and how it's going to be so good when it's all finished, etc. Like blah blah blah.
They have big plans for their holiday when it's all finished.
So as we like explore the same house, we see that it's like in a state of like unfinished interior, effectively. Like there's like lots of missing bits, unpainted walls, old things like that. And he's like in the process of repairing things.
Turning it very modern, very rich.
We also introduced very early here that there are little fur beetles who have begun an infestation of the house. We see a couple like scuttling across the floor, and they run into a little crack, a little crevice in the siding of the house. What do you call that? The skirting board? They crawl in there, and rather than deal with them, he like seals them in there with like a little bit of wall sealer stuff, which I think is like a good way of introducing this idea as well.
Yeah. I can't be mad at that. In my very first flat, I was 19, and one day I woke up, there were a whole bunch of flies just on the wall, and after bravely calling another flatmate to get rid of the flies, came back an hour later, and there were a lot more flies on the wall.
What the fuck?
And we figured out they were coming from a hole in the wall.
Whoa.
Where a pipe was coming out, which who knows what was in there initially.
Jesus.
That the flies had done to end up in there. Maybe there was a cool mystery.
Oh, God.
Or maybe next door just decided they'd stop bathing.
Yeah.
And after realizing, like, well, that's where the flies are coming from, we did the honorable, 19-year-old flatting thing and walked straight past the phone that could have called a landlord, straight past a wallet that could have bought fly spray, and grabbed masking tape and taped up that hole. And sadly moved out of that flat before I could watch the wall bulge and burst with flies.
Jesus. That's its own dark tale, Gareth. That's fucking horrific. Oh my lord.
Oh. Imagine the flies like pushing against the wall like Nightmare on Elm Street.
No. Oh my god. What a horrible image for the listeners and for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Dang.
I was like, when you're 19, you're the worst.
That's true. Yeah.
Apologies to all our many 19-year-old listeners.
Big fans of the Floyd and the 16 to 20 bracket.
Yeah.
Popping off.
The Floyd and art house stop motion.
When they're not on TikTok, they're looking up like avant-garde film podcasts.
Yeah, long form.
Yeah.
Rambly podcasts.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, that's what teens' attention spans are actually doing.
Oh my god.
Marketers.
Please, get at us. I just want to sell your me undies. Anyway, yes. So we see the house get like very quickly he starts like bringing all kinds of appliances in, and then there's like a slight montage before the house is prepared to like a beautiful finish. We get like cutaways to each of the rooms, like MTV Cribs style. Each of them has their own little like zoom in, which is really great. Because the developer has just finished the kitchen, and he just chucks on his iPod, starts playing the only actual song in this movie, Lap Dance by NERD, which is a fucking banger. Holy shit. This song entered my life with this movie, and I gotta say, I've listened to it every day since watching it.
It's so weird because, like, I didn't realize it was Lap Dance by NERD until the subtitles told me on my Pink Floyd watch.
Yeah.
Like, of all the songs, it's one that would have come out, like, 15 years earlier. And was like, even of the Pharrell catalogue, Pharrell being the leader of NERD, like there's so much to choose from. And even of the NERD catalogue, there's so much to choose from. But then their stop motion mouse movie, they put the new metal stylings of Lap Dance, and
fucking sick. Oh my god, it's great. I've had a massive NERD resurgence after watching this movie, and it's just been thoroughly enjoyable. So
yeah. Do you have a favorite NERD song?
I did like the latest
band?
album that they came out with probably like 3 or 4 years ago now.
Nobody Ever Really Dies.
I like that stuff, but also it's got to be She Wants to Move. Come on.
Yeah. That's 110.
That's the best song, like probably of like the early 2000s, I think.
Yeah,
it's a really, really good track. Always goes off 100%. At a party.
Yes, I do have a very strong memory of dancing with you in a tent to that song. And like, I think you locked eyes with me for the like, somebody bring us some water in here line. And I was just like, damn, because at that point I hadn't heard that song in many, many years. It was similar to this experience. But like, just the playing and then you knowing all the words and then choosing me to be your water bringer was powerful.
Oh man, that's the energy I want to put out into the world at all times, Gareth. I'm very very proud to participate in that story. That's wonderful. But yeah,
well, that's a story for the teens.
Hell yeah. I will say that the rest of the soundtrack of this movie is also very good, but it's all just very like tense violin music. Mostly. And so the stark contrast between that and Lap Dance by NERD is pretty great, I've got to say. It's just so funny that it's like the only actual song in the movie. It's just what a choice. What a powerful choice. Anyway, yes, so we see the lovely finish of the house. It's a little bit kitschy, right? Like the way they've done it, he's like done a lot of like white marble and purple and black and stuff, and I don't know if I like it, but it's definitely, he's going for the like the Ritz kind of feel is the idea.
They watched a lot of MTV Cribs and Keeping Up with the Kardashians to design this version of the house.
So smart. Like that's exactly the feeling that I got from it. Like there's a completely unnecessary fish tank in the middle of one of the rooms. Like it's genius. It's really well done. But unfortunately, as we go into brain damage, we discover he hears like a sound behind one of the cupboard doors and opens it up to see that the fur beetles have continued their infestation. They are filling the inside of this cupboard, much like the flies filled Gareth's wall. And that it is very scary. And so he goes down to the basement, puts together a plan. We hear like text-to-speech, like his phone telling him how to get rid of fur beetles as instructions are being printed out on like a laser printer. It's just like all of the sound work in this is so good. It just all feels real. Like you forget for a little bit that this guy's a big rat. You're just like, oh yeah, that's just a man trying to deal with pests. Also the choice that like of having a big rat, like having a pest control problem is great. Like it's very clever in concept as well.
No, 100%, yeah. And did you know this this rat, that we relate to so much isn't voiced by an actor, but voiced by Jarvis Cocker, the singer of Pulp.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
What a wild casting. Man.
Right?
Man, he wouldn't have been involved, but like there's probably maybe he's met Pink Floyd would be the connection. Surely. But like, I don't know. That's cool though. That's definitely neat. They aren't like the same era as far as I'm aware.
No, not at all. He's Britpop and they're
Brit Prog. Brit Prog is maybe the most uncomfortable series of words.
Jarvis Cocker, actually, like, of the films he's been in that I can think of, it's like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic Mr. Fox in this.
Nice. I like that he's found his niche in the old stop motion now. That's good.
Yeah.
He likes being a stop motion animal, but he did it once. He's like, oh man, more of that? Hell yeah! I respect that.
He actually doesn't know that actors aren't usually done by stop motion.
Yeah. He's like, everyone tells him that he's like, oh, I'm acting in this new movie, and everyone goes to see it, and he's like, he's the rat, and everyone's like, what? Like, he's like, yeah, I was doing a lot of acting in the booth, guys. That's where I do my best acting.
So he doesn't understand why Christian Bale chooses to get a stop motion puppet that looks exactly like him.
Oh man, he should though.
No man, you should have got a mouse.
There'd be a lot less yelling on set if he did that.
Yeah, true. Everyone else real actor, but for everyone's unannoyance.
Yeah.
Christian Bale is done by a puppet.
God, that's a good idea. That's a great way to fix Hollywood. If someone's ego gets too big, there's always the threat that you get replaced by stop motion. And if everyone's just accepts that, it's just you see full live action movie, except it's you're watching the new Jurassic World, but then Chris Pratt walks in and he's a little rat, and you're like, oh, okay, I see.
Oh no,
I see what's happened. And yeah, he got hit by the stop motion claws. It shouldn't be a punishment though. I feel like stop motion is a great art form. It's only used as in punishment in this weird anecdote.
Yeah, in this universe it's bad. In all other universes,
it's
stop
great.
motion's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. So he goes about trying to get rid of these pests in like a sort of mousetrap style sequence where he's just spraying this boric acid around the house and trying to get them with a vacuum cleaner. And we see that he's slowly he's becoming obsessed with this as well, and he knocks himself out with the gases from this pesticide that he's using, and we see this like absolutely beautiful shot that I've sent to you as the picture that I've sent to you for this episode.
We'll put it up.
Yeah, it's just like him. Like in the sort of fetal position, surrounded by the dead bugs on the floor and the vacuum cleaner and the pesticide, etc. But it's like done as if it's like a Renaissance painting, is how I feel. Like the bugs look like you know how you would do like pieces of plants or like parts of a mosaic. It feels very like biblical painting to me in a great way.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, him like in utero is sort of the look as well. Yeah, it's good. It's a good wee shot. But yeah, he wakes up and surrounded by these dead beetles, and then cleans them up. But we do see that there's still. He like cleans everything up and like takes them outside, and we get a shot like from the first floor going down to the basement as he goes down the stairs. And as we are doing that, there's like a cutaway of the interior of the floor, and we see that is still teeming with beetles. There's like squirming around in there. Like there's a really good Foley sound for it. It's gross as hell. Anyway, he also gets all the stuff, the construction trash and everything, and burns it in the backyard right at the end of Brain Damage here. Yeah, another great way to deal with a problem. So yeah, we go into Eclipse as he's ordering catering for the viewing that's going to be happening of the new house. But his order has been delivered to the wrong address, and he receives someone else's order. This is as someone who works in online shopping, Gareth, this is a very common occurrence.
Okay.
And we do our best to resolve it, unlike the customer service as displayed in this movie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about your personal connection, your stakes.
He receives like sausages and chips and 2-minute noodles.
Yeah, the kind of stuff you'd have if you were a gamer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 19.
Yeah, exactly. He was hoping for like hors d'oeuvres, canapes, and like French wine, but didn't get any of that. And so, yeah, he gets like energy drink as well. It's hilarious. And so he has to turn these into the canapes in a hilarious twist of fate. And they look absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
So we go into the viewing here in the silence between the plays of the album. And yeah, it's sort of just the developer talking a big game about the house and all of its trimmings and everything. But the attendees here are all rats as well, and they're all very unimpressed by what they're seeing. Bits of that, you can see that like the house itself has not been, like it's been polished to a high sheen, but like the quality of the workmanship is obviously lacking. Like someone touches the curtains and like the curtain rail falls down. There's a bunch of like random art and stuff that like doesn't mean anything everywhere. Everyone's like tracking mud onto the white carpets, which looks absolutely horrible and would be a common issue with the house as well. Like it's really, it's like clear that it's not good. As a like tie into the previous part as well, there's a little baby mouse in like a papoose being carried around who's called Isabel, which is cute. There's like tiny little ties between each of the movies. Here, I think in part 3 we see one of the fur beetles wandering around underneath the floorboards. Yeah, so that's cool.
It's so interesting that there's little connections, but like brazenly like defiantly no huge connections. Like they're just in completely different worlds.
Absolutely.
Despite this house being a constant.
Yeah, like the stories are completely separate and like telling completely different things with similar like traits, but nothing like no connective tissue between them except the house itself, which is like a great idea for a film.
Yeah.
And
that's quite jarring, and like I guess the era we're in of movies taking place in a cinematic universe, like that everything would be different characters, but like, or different details, but the same world, whereas this is completely different worlds with the same details.
Exactly. This is so good too. I wish we got more stuff like this, just these anthology films where it's like three films for the price of one, and nothing overstays its welcome, and it feels like you're getting some great little stories. It's not like I don't have the attention span for a full film or whatever, but it's a richer experience for having all three together, is how I would put it.
Yeah. Oh, my thing now is like films, if a film needs to be short, it should be short, and there should be a way that we can just have easier access to it as we do to like regular films.
Exactly.
Like don't pad anything out.
Oh my God.
Like, if you want to make a like 40-minute James Bond movie, do it.
Yeah. Looking at you, Batman, like, Jesus, who needed that film to be 3 hours? What the fuck?
In the COVID era as well.
Fucking
it's like, okay.
Anyway.
I'm going to be in the cinema for this long?
Oh, God. I don't want to. I'd rather go home. So, playthrough 2 begins as, the developer, like, tries to get his groove back and, like, put on a brave face. He has, like, a brief panic attack in the bathroom. And then, comes in and, like, starts talking a big game again, talking up the kitchen and all its fantastic appliances and trimmings and things. And, we go into breathe as he indicates towards the rotisserie oven as, like, a final pièce de résistance kind of thing. And inside is just 2 sausages being suspended and rotating, and one of them falls to the bottom of the oven, like, very limply. It's hilarious. In shock, he drops his phone, and the Bluetooth setup that he has for the lights and music in the house breaks as his phone cracks on the ground. And he furiously tries to fix that as there's like disco lights flickering violently. And all the other attendees leave upset. But then suddenly, behind him are 2 characters, 2 strange, a couple here. Both rats as well, but they are oddly shaped. One is very, very, very fat and short, and the other one is extremely tall, like really, really tall with a tiny little head at the top. And like almost like stoat-like. Both definitely rats, though. But just oddly proportioned. And they say that they're very interested in the house. Very ominously. Not reacting to the situation in any way. And the developer's excited about this, obviously, because he is trying to sell the house. And they ask a bunch of like questions about the house. They ask mainly about like the raw materials used in the construction, especially the fibers in like the fabrics and things like that, which is just a really funny detail looking back. We also get Pink Floyd singing Race Towards an Early Grave at the end of Breathe here, and going into On the Run as the couple are like exploring the house. Like, this is a bad situation is what Pink Floyd are telling us. Because
everyone else is leaving or has left, and this couple, they're very interested.
Very, very interested. The developer's like not wanting to let the sale go. And he lets them, they come into a bedroom and stay there for a very long time. The developer like goes on the phone and like celebrates that he has an interested buyer, like calls the person that he keeps calling his darling.
His sweetie, his darling.
Goes up and sees them in the bedroom, and they've like set up for the night. They're like in their PJs. and he's like, what? He's like, they say, "Oh yeah, I think we're going to turn in," and he's like, "Oh, like stay the night," and they're like, "Well, that's what a bedroom is for." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, get to know the house, yeah, sure, stay the night." And so he lets them stay because he doesn't want to like lose the sale. And he's also scared that he discovers that the insects are back infesting the house, like all the fur beetles are still around, and tries to get rid of them again. In the morning, the people are still there and basically ignore all attempts to finalize the house sale. He like goes to see them while they're like trying to get the TV to work, just like not plugged in, not set up in any way, just trying to like turn it on. He's like, "Oh, you should get your lawyer around." And they're like, "Yes, we really should. We should invite him around for some food." And he's like, "Great." And they're like, "Great." And then like nothing happens. We see them, like the couple are like watching TV and laughing as like the developers obviously like set it up for them. And he's just sort of staring into the middle distance, like not sort of comprehending this situation that he's in. So like putting together what's going on here. He realizes that these people aren't going to leave and they have like no intention of buying the house. And he like complains to his darling over the phone, who hangs up on him. And he's like, "Oh, what?" And he is like, "Right, well, I'll get rid of them myself." And he trips over and falls on his head, and like is staring up at the ceiling, when on the ceiling above, like on the roof here, we get a full song and dance, like cabaret number from the insects, from the little fur beetles and the fur beetle larvae here. They do like a little dance and like sing a wee song.
Like an old timey, like big Hollywood number. Like, Bugsby, someone. Yeah. Bugsby being the key word.
Yeah.
Like, very hello, my darling.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Yeah. And this, for us, is synced, like, right on cue with the verse of Time rolling in after, like, the ominous chords, which is, like, honestly not a bad sync. Like, coming in with the vocals, I was, like, pretty impressed that it did line up with, like, an actual song part of the album. Because, like, if this was just instrumental, it is just instrumental in the film. Obviously, because the bugs don't like sing, they just sort of go like they sing like notes rather than actual lyrics. It worked for me. I was like, okay, cool.
I did not expect it. Like when it started happening, I was like, oh, it's happening to Time. That's not quite the song for this, but it synced way too well.
Yeah.
So shout out to the bugs.
Shout out to these bugs. Good job. Good job, little bugs. So we also roll into the Time solo for this cabaret part as well, and the developer's just like looking stunned at this. There is a bit which frustrates me in this part, and that it's just such a dumb little thing. The bugs like fling a fur beetle up into the air like parachute style, like as like a celebration, but they're on the ceiling, so that bug would just fall to the floor.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I see what they're doing, but like, I don't know. It's just a silly little nitpicky thing.
Yeah, they need to just set up one bug on the floor.
Yeah.
To like,
just like it land, like it does the big jump thing, and then we just see it fall and land on his face or something. That would have been good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the following morning, the developer has like had enough. He's like goes up to the couple who are in the bathroom, like
happy,
so loving it. The big boy is just sitting in the bath, and the other one's like in a towel and doing their hair or whatever. And
this was the moment where I was like, these guys, that's you and me, bro. Like, that is Gareth and James of the Pink Floyd podcast.
Oh no.
Like, people have built this film. They've built a film. They've done it up. They're trying their best to get people to like talk about it and notice it.
Yeah.
And then these two creeps show up.
We come in and insist on talking about Pink Floyd the whole time, and everyone's like, could you not though?
And we don't leave.
Yeah.
We do it for quite a while.
Yeah. That you're right. You are so right. I don't love it, but when you're right, you're
One
right.
of us is too tall and doesn't know how to turn on a TV.
Yeah. The other one has beady little eyes that look straight through you. Man, there we go.
We're very interested in your film.
Yeah,
We're
very interested. We've done a lot of research. Yeah. So this is where the developer and where the audience, I think, is supposed to realize that these characters have body types that are very similar to the beetle and larvae, respectively, of the respectively of the fur beetles. They're very similar shaped. In fact, the very tall one has like a ridged kind of body, like to really match that, like to really make it look like they are what they are. It's cool. So he calls out that he's going to call the police on them. And while on the line with the police, he gets to the door, and the police are coincidentally at the door. And they are here, and developers are like, oh my God, that was quick. But yes, come in quickly and deal with these home intruders. And they say, hey, you're this guy, you're the developer, right? I don't think they actually they say that, but they say, you've got to stop calling your dentist. Because he's the person that he's been calling on the phone over again and calling darling and being overly familiar with and calling it all hours of the day is his dentist. Which is a great reveal. It really shows that like this guy is like much further off the deep end than we thought. Like he is definitely strange, like, and has been going this way for a while. It calls into question how much of this stuff is actually real, or like an invention of his own mind, which is very good.
It's such. There's like in deep comedy nerd world, there's the idea of a joke, kind of a joke being like an in the moment kind of weird thing, or a joke that like is funny because there's a whole world behind it. And a lot of great Simpsons jokes are like that. Like Homer Simpson, like a guy, Hank Scorpio saying to Homer Simpson, like, you ever see a man say goodbye to his shoes? And Homer Simpson laughing and going, yes, once.
Yeah.
Is hilarious because it's like, when did he see this? What is this story?
Exactly.
That is built like deep into Homer Simpson's life. And this is the same. It's like, this is such a funny reveal, and then it's so much more delicious because you get to go like, why? Why did he start calling the dentist?
Like, hang on.
What's the dentist's been saying on the other side of the line?
Exactly. Oh, it's so good. It reframes the whole thing in just the best way.
Which is probably why we both enjoyed this movie so much more in our second watch.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just like every time...
Because all these little details come back. Yeah. It's perfect. So he's like very defeated by this because obviously he can't get these people to leave. And then the family members of this couple arrive, all looking incredibly similar to the couple here. They're all arriving in like coats and hats to visit, and the couple appear behind the developer, and they say, oh yeah, these are our family. They've come to stay. They've lived here before, you know. Which is a horrifying sentence. The developer at this point has like a full-on mental break and attempts to kill the couple with the like pesticide, with the boric acid, like to deal with this infestation that is now happening like again and like in the same way. But yeah, he like in his panic, he like opens this bottle too quickly and blasts himself in the face with the acid, knocking him out again, much like he did earlier. We see him being wheeled in on a hospital bed, very Pink Floyd, very Pulse. As we are going into Great Gig, playing out. Which will play out for this incredibly bleak ending. Like, you thought the last ending was dark. This is like super dark. I was really floored at the end of this section. But yeah, it's like almost like fucking the Metamorphosis, like Kafka shit. It's really, really dark. Anyway, the strange couple like come back and arrive at the hospital. Like we see them arrive outside the door, and that the film could have ended there, and it would have been scary enough. But no, we've got more. They say we better get you home. They take him back in his like hospital gown to the house, and inside they go through the door. There's this big welcome home banner hanging in the entryway, and all of the relatives of the couple are here, all clapping and staring at the door, like round of applause, end of Evangelion style. They are. Some of them have multiple arms that are like clapping themselves again, like the bugs, guys. And as he comes in, this like round of applause becomes a terrifying slow clap, like in sequence, like a ritual is happening. And then
and exactly when it goes into like in time, the exact clapping in time is when the great gig vocals start as well.
And for this we get these final shots of exceptionally dire, where the family, the bug family, are ravaging the inside of the house. They are like chewing on the walls and like crawling like centipede like up the furnishings. The house itself is like destroyed on the inside. There's like rubbish everywhere. There's detritus and like everything's torn apart. Like we see them from above, like eating the bed and like chewing on the TV cables. It's so dark. And then in the rotisserie oven door opens and the developer emerges. He has reverted back to being like an animal. He is like, for all intents and purposes, an actual rat. We see he's wearing like the rags of his hospital gown around his neck, and he like picks up a piece of garbage and tries to eat it, and then retreats inside the rotisserie oven, and we see that he's like tunneled into the wall, into like a hole or a burrow, and holy fuck, is that dark. Like returning to this animalistic state. Fuck. Like I don't really know what this is trying to say, other than like obsession with the material is something that shouldn't be followed, like it should be punished, or will lead to ruin. And like there are more important things in life, but fuck me, is this hard to watch. Like, it really shocked me, like genuinely. Didn't expect that.
I'm wringing my hands just as we talk about it.
Yeah, I was like, holy fuck. What did you think? How did it sing?
I mean, also good. Like, maybe not as like a consistent mood as the previous segment.
No.
But like when the syncs come, like he does mention the beating heart of a house, and we hear a beating heart.
That's good.
Which is very nice. Yeah, it's looking promising. Yeah. You know, we've put up the wood now, and now we're just going to hang some walls on this sinking house. Yeah. I definitely know how houses work. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, God. That story, though, is just such a well-told story, because it's like...
Yeah.
The first one is like a slow, ominous build, and then the second one, you feel it's like a breath of fresh air. You're like, oh, I can relax. It's not bad. And then there's a turn, and you're like, oh no, it's becoming ominous. And then the ending just like hits you over the back of the head with like a 2x4, and you're like, fuck. Just what a phenomenal story. Just as a short story, I was really impressed with that one.
I will go out on a limb. That was my favorite story of the three.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them all, but that one was like, man, like that one could be a short film in its own right. Anyway, so yes, final part and story here as we are in the tail end of Great Gig. Part 3 Listen Again and Seek the Sun. Do you have the director for this one written down?
Directed by Paloma Beza.
Great.
Who is also an actor.
Nice.
And director.
Cool. So yes, tail end of Great Gig for this. We are now much further into the future after some kind of apocalyptic event has occurred and caused mass floods, where you get an intro of like buildings underneath the water. We see the city streets of the previous adaptation, the previous story, are just submerged and like fish swimming over the top, which is like a very cool visual. And then we come up to the house, which still stands defiantly above this like open water, as it was up on the hill and it was like on high ground. It has survived these floods. And yeah, it's just surrounded by water and mist. It's a very striking image. I think they used this for the poster as well.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this time we have anthropomorphic cat characters. And thank God, basically, this story has a much lighter tone. And I was certain, I was led to believe that this story was going to be like another horrible tale. And I'm super glad that it doesn't go that way, because I would have just felt like very upset by the end of these three stories if that were the case. But no, this is a positive story, and I'm very happy to have a positive story take place in this house. Yeah, it's good. Yes, so our characters, we have Rosa, who is the landlord of this house. She's inherited it as a family from her family, parents now deceased, and is trying to restore it to be like an apartment complex and effectively like a bastion against the outside world. She is like... Yeah, she wants to build this like lovely set of apartments and inside the house, and sees the potential in it. And because it was inherited to her parents, from her parents rather, it like has that tie to them, and she doesn't want to disappoint them. Right, is the idea. And so
she's like invested in the house for the house and for it being a home.
Exactly. Yeah,
everyone else so far.
Yeah, that is a good positive twist on that obsession as well. Like she's obsessed with like building it into something great, and like that's probably why it goes better for her. She's not. Yeah. She's in it for the right reasons. She's in it for like helping people rather than like the idea of the material being the important thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. Sit down, because we're going to high school English.
All right, here we go.
The reason things work out well for Rosa is the first lot, they want the house for status.
Mm-hmm.
They think they deserve, the father decides he deserves the house and deserves servants.
Yeah.
And, leaves his old life behind. He only wants this house so people will see him as a success.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, he only likes the house for its monetary value. He thinks he has to get the house, milk it for its profit, and then drop it as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas Rosa, she sees it as a home. She actually wants a home. Something like, it means family to her. It means, kindness. It's, she's not 100% there at the beginning of the story in that regard.
Yeah.
But it still means something more as a home to her instead of a house.
Yeah.
And the New Zealand housing crisis is brought to us by people who think of homes as status and assets.
Damn.
And it's costing us our roses, people who see it as homes. Our Eliases have to sail away on our little boats.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
That has been high school English with Gareth.
Give this man at least a merit, all right? God.
Oh, please.
He's earned
please,
it.
I'm trying to get into university. I'm 19.
What?
I shouldn't still be here.
You should have left. Oh my God, I got held back. Okay. It's because you keep relating all of your essays to Pink Floyd, I think, is the reason.
I keep getting thrown out because I get my phone out during the exam because I want to listen to Pink Floyd.
Exactly. How does this essay sync? Yeah. That's a great take, though. You're right on about that. It makes perfect sense to me.
Good.
Yes. We go into we are introduced to her as she is like in front of her grand plans for the house. She's got like a pinboard with designs and ideas on it, and she goes to try and put up some wallpaper with little to no success because the paste that she is using, she tries to get water out of a tap, but it comes through as brown water and doesn't work for her paste, and so the wallpaper all comes tumbling down around her. So she's trying to improve the house, but is unable to because the house is in such disrepair, and she doesn't have enough money to get it sorted. I'll get into it a little bit further, but anyway, she is struggling because her tenants can't afford to pay her to make repairs to the house. And they are like giving, so we've got, I'll introduce them here. They're like sort of archetypical characters. We've got Elias, who's like a fisherman and is like effectively jobless. We find out what his real passion is later on in the film. But he tries to pay with fish for his rent effectively that he catches, which is genuinely like a good solution. But anyway, and Jen, who is like a hippie character, believing in healing magics and tries to pay with like crystals to cleanse Rosa's aura. But again, it's just sort of trying to help. Both these characters are trying to help Rosa like figure out what she actually wants. And also, like, Rosa is in complete denial about the state of the world outside of this house. Like, the world itself is destroyed. There's been a collapse of society, and that, like, we see no other characters other than these three, except for one other, and they are like a far journeyer. And like, the concept of money itself, like, holds no value, really. Like, like, it's interesting that, like, she's like, I need the money to fix this, but like the logic there doesn't work. Like, it's not, it doesn't actually track as an idea. And the other characters seem to realize this and are like helping her by like giving her food, like actual useful things in a apocalypse, or like trying to help her mental state rather than like, and help her see that like this situation isn't going to be fixed by money. Like, that's the really clever thing that I think this part does. But
it's also interesting. This is our second movie in a row where a character is wanting money but doesn't realize that money won't matter. After the big flawed James Bond plan in GoldenEye.
Oh my god, yeah, exactly. Didn't even think about
now,
that.
What's this? The English class door's reopening, and it's time for English class of Gareth extra credit.
Oh,
I'd say Rosa's point of view there is a lot like a lot of people's view on climate change.
Yo.
All right. See you after class, teach. I'm going to ride off on my...
Oh, shit. He's taking off on his turbo bike. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's out. Look how fast he's going. Wow. Who was that? Cool English major.
Makes me want to stay in school.
Yeah. We get these characters introduced here. And Jen, hilariously, we're in mid-money, but she says, I gave up on time years ago. And it's like, I guess so. That was side A and this is side B, so I'll give you a pass on that one. You could have had a big gap. Jen, most likely character to listen to Pink Floyd alongside the next 100%. One to be introduced. Absolutely. So we have a conversation with Jen and Rosa. They have like a cup of tea together. She's talking about this project, restoring the house, and Jen's trying to divert the conversation to other lighter topics and is like saying, well, not really lighter topics. She says that the water is rising still, and Rosa like completely ignores that. And then she talks about her spirit partner who is on his way to stay with them. And he's coming, and she's like, well, there's heaps of room in the house, so he can stay for a while. It'll be okay. And yeah, we go into Us and Them now as Rosa tries to fix the shower because all the characters have been complaining about the water being brown. And to no success. And then she goes and she sees that Jen and Elias are sitting on the couch together, like having a good time watching some television. So like, I don't know, like, I guess that implies that other people are allowed there. I don't know. Maybe they're watching a VHS.
Yeah, I like that.
But Jen doesn't join them. She like has a huff and like moves off because she doesn't really want to see them as like friends, I think. She's just like the landlord and these are the good for nothing people that stay here and don't pay her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a very easy thing to do when you're in a situation where you feel like it's out of your control, is to like, if someone is owing you something, you feel like you can't really be their friend because you're like, well, at least I can control the distance I put amongst these people. Yeah. I feel like I had that feeling a lot when I was like in my early 20s and had no idea what was happening in the world, but I was like, well, I can be huffy when I'm like walking around.
Yeah. It's something you grow out of, right? I guess like you're slowly coming to terms with like the things you can and can't control in your life. And then, when something like throws that out of whack, it's like, oh, I'm just going to be angry and upset all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. You learn to deal with it.
You feel your oldest, but it is something you grow out of.
Yeah.
Being in a huff.
Yeah. So if you're 19,
so don't worry, 19
and a huff at us saying that, then it'll pass. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't you worry, you 19-year-old head. Anyway, so this spirit partner arrives the following morning, and he is your typical hippie Glastonbury attendee type. Full with Tibetan throat singing and all is how he is introduced. Like Rosa just hears him and then comes out to the front of the house and sees him outside. And he's like I like that he's like a big unkempt ginger cat as well. Like as a
with
choice.
Dreadlocks?
Yeah, incredible. Like what a good idea. Just a stray. And he's great. I just as a character I really enjoy his presence. His name is Cosmos, which is a fantastic name. Good cat name. And
jot that down.
Yeah. And he has a fantastic piece of technology. He has like a umbrella tent that he deploys, which is incredible. Like it just looks great as a like prop. I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. And he talks. He has a really funny description of money. Which I believe we're still in. No, we're in Us and Them. We just missed money when he describes money as a denomination or note. And it's like, that's exactly what money is. He's like, what is money? It's some kind of denomination or note. And she's like, yep, you got it in one, bro. Like, but he is going to pay for his stay with his skills. As it turns out, he is a tradesman. He's like a carpenter. He's got like a bunch of tools in a toolbox, and Rosa is immediately like delighted by this, but like apprehensive because of who Cosmos is and like his style. So she's willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and sets him to work on a floorboard that came loose on the second floor. She was like walking through the corridor and like this floorboard snapped up and smacked her in the back of the head. And that's where we saw our fur beetle friend from the previous film lurking under there.
Still going strong.
She also requests that he fix the plumbing, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll do the carpentry first and then we'll see about that. In the night, they have like a little bit of mandolin playing and dancing around at Jen's place, which is super cute. They all like they convince Rosa to get involved, and she comes down and has a wee dance, and it's just a good time. Like you look from the outside, looking in at the house, and it's just like a nice thing is actually happening there for like the first time, which is cool.
In the house's entire existence.
However, as we're outside, we do see that the water is slowly and ominously rising, and the mist surrounding the house and the skyline is worsening. It's getting thicker. It's really well done, this as well, because from the outside we were introduced with like a flower on the bank of this enormous expanse of water, and as the water rises, this flower gets submerged, and until like the top of it is like peeking out, like someone is drowning is the idea. I think. Anyway. So in the morning, Rosa wakes up to go, and she hears sawing and things, and goes to check on the work on the floorboard. No. She hears sawing from outside and goes outside to see that a boat has been constructed for Elias, who has requested it. And then she's panics and runs upstairs to find that instead of repairing the floorboard, Cosmos has ripped up all the other floorboards in the hallway and created up a huge hole in the floor in order to build this boat for Elias. She tries to tell Cosmos off, and he's just beating a drum in her face and ignoring her, which is incredibly rude. But yeah, that's just Cosmos's whole vibe. He just has one state of mind, and it's chilling. She also demands that he leave, and he just completely ignores that. So she goes out to talk to Elias instead, who and he's been inspired by Cosmos to leave. He says he's going to travel away from the house because he can't stay there forever. And Rosa's like, oh shit, because she didn't see that coming at all. Yeah. This feels like a complete blindside to her, because they were it's a huge change in the relationship, because she thought that he was her friend kind of, but also that he would stay there and support her, even though he stopped paying with money and was just paying with fish. She thought that they had a good thing going, and so it's it's really brutal, and she feels really betrayed and runs off. She telling him to bloody leave and get out of here. Cosmos continues random work on the house, making changes and fixing things, and Rosa gets driven up the wall, but he actually successfully fixes the plumbing with his loopy-doopy method of random ingredients like garlic and stuff. It actually does fix...
and singing to it.
Yeah, it actually does fix it, and Rosa's like, oh shit, and manages to put her wallpaper up, finally. And while doing so, we see Elias arrive and do the classic, knock at the door, don't knock at the door, look sheepish and then leave thing. The classic movie, don't say anything and leave that no one saw move. He was going to say goodbye, but he doesn't. So Elias decides to set off and leave on his boat, and Rosa doesn't realize until he's already left and is off in the distance, and runs out to the dock and sees Jen and Cosmos there as brain damage comes in. And it's really sad. It's really, really brutal. That he, from her perspective, he didn't even say goodbye. And it's only emphasized by the next bit. We hear that Jen is also preparing to leave. And tries to convince Rosa to come along with them, but she's like, no. Well, everyone's going to leave. Everyone's leaving me here, but I'll stay and fix the house. I'll get it going, Cosmos's final piece of work that he does on the house, he creates there's a big for rent sign outside, or apartments for rent, and he has put a huge lever out here made out of metal, and we don't know what this is yet. But we'll find out. And he's it'll when the time is right, you can push this lever, which is not at all ominous. So Rosa goes up to Elias's room to do the work in there that she needs to do, and we find that Elias has left her a fish as a final rent payment, and like a collection of drawings that he's made of the tenants of the house, which is really, really sweet. It's really lovely. These like beautiful like depictions of all the friends here as like a nice little gift. And like he's left a handwritten note as well. Really, really sweet. Very like human scene, I found.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's amazing how sweet and like just almost kitchen sinky and like small kind of wholesome drama.
Yeah.
This third part of a stop motion horror movie is.
Yeah. And
especially considering everyone's played by like weird puppet cats.
Exactly.
It's so
right.
nice.
Yeah. It's just, you just get lost in it. I was swept away at this point, you know, like it's just so good. Yeah. So we go into Eclipse as we have like Jen and Rosa having like a final lunch together before Jen takes off, and we see that the water has like now breached inside the house. It's like pooling around their feet. So like, yeah, it's getting bad. And yeah, Rosa's like questions where they're even going, and Jen's like, I don't know. We don't know what's out there, but we have to try because we can't stay. Like, which is just it's such a good mentality for the end of this playthrough of the album. Like, this like venturing into the unknown kind of feeling, but having to try and like continue and move on after like it like hasn't worked. Like what you've tried to do is not going to work, and you've got to let go. You've got to move on so that you can grow and continue, right? Like that's the lesson or idea here, I think. And yeah, so after this, Jen like lets the mist into the room, and Rosa is confronted with her fear. Like this reality like rushes in with the mist, like hitting her in the face, and she sort of has a half panic attack, half like bad trip, I think.
Yeah.
Here, where she has visions of the house being destroyed and her friends all abandoning her. She sees like her friends sitting on the couch and her laughing with them, and then she's all alone and crying. And yeah, it's she at the end of the vision, she like falls. The like house interior collapses, and she falls through the floor and awakens inside Cosmos's tent on the shore, on the outside of the house. And as she wakes up, she sees that Jen and Cosmos are sailing away in their boat, and they're calling out to Rosa to come and join them, but the boat is too far away for her to reach. And she's like finally realized that she's ready to leave and ready to move on, but it's too late. And it's bleak.
Yeah.
And yeah, she is like crying and like goes and rests up against the sign outside the front of the house, like wading through the water, and leans on this big lever and pushes it a little bit, and then realizes and pushes the big lever, and it reveals that the house, the final changes that Cosmos has made to the house is the house's conservatory at the top, the little like dome opens up to reveal like a large like propeller. And yeah, the house like itself starts shaking itself free from its foundations. There's a fantastic shot, like a practical effect, I think, of the house like sinking into like the foundation coming loose and water pouring into where it was. I have no idea how they did this like actually, but it looks great. Like, because you couldn't do this with stop motion because the water looks too good, but like it's very cool. I
think this is the only CG. This and the mist are the only like CG in the whole film.
Right.
Although I think the dancing beetles might be as well.
Yeah, no, they're really, really good. So yeah, I was impressed by this effect anyway, even though it's not technically stop motion, it still works. But yeah, so yeah, Rosa runs up the stairs of the house as it's like breaking free from the foundation, and yeah, she finds a big like steering wheel up here, like a ship's helm at the top of the house, and yeah, realizes that the house itself has been converted into an enormous boat, and yeah, she sails out towards the horizon and catches up with the group of Jen and Cosmos, and Elias as well joins in his boat. And yeah, we just see them sailing off into the sunrise, I believe. And yeah, it's really, really lovely. I'm so glad that this one has a positive end. We are in On the Run for this final part, which is a little bit off. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, On the Run is the sound of Pink Floyd themselves opening their little conservatories on the tops of their heads. A little propeller comes out and they just sail away as little stop-motion boats.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens every time you go to a Pink Floyd concert and they play On the Run.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everyone sails around and has a good time.
Yeah.
And then we go into the closing credits, which does have another musical number made for this film. It's like a song written about the house, like it being a burden and a curse to all who inhabit it, like this like bomb, and like it's like half like advertisement, half like foreboding omen. It's really good. The lyrics, if you pay attention. So by Jarvis Cocker as well. Like, nice.
The big question is he supposed to still be in character as the rat?
Maybe he's not doing the same voice, so.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the third and final part. And what did you think? And how did it sync?
What did I think, and how did it sync overall?
Yeah, and also just this part.
Yeah.
But like, we can just do it all overall. I think, you know, like this part.
Okay.
I feel like as a whole, this part synced the least well. Out of the three.
100%.
But it was a lot of fun still. And like we had two like bangers when it came to syncs earlier. So, you know, like I'm willing to give it a pass. Yeah,
I'm thinking this might be a number that does look quite comfy to live in. The number 8.
Ooh. Yeah.
8 out of 10 on syncs.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I agree with you actually. Yeah. That makes sense to me. Nice. Big 8.
Nice. I wanted to slide in just underneath house. So it's house and the house.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
Okay. On the graph.
Yeah. Put it there. Nice.
Put it there.
And
and speaking of putting it there, let's put a segment here.
Oh.
James, I want to know, if you were to build a house,
yes,
that house was to sync with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, what's that house like?
Oh, man. Okay. So I did think a lot about this. We've got, I want it to be similar to this house. Like, I think it has a similar, like, foreboding kind of energy that the house from the movie The House would have. It's the kind of house that's existed for a long time, and it definitely has the same kind of, like, house on the hill feeling in my mind. It's something with a hell of a lot of character, like almost like Scooby-Doo villain haunted house feeling, but with no ghosts. It's a real house. It just looks a lot like that, you know. You go there and it's like, oh, it's just this old mansion, you know. Like everyone makes jokes about it being haunted, but like it's not. That's the feeling that I get from the materials, the bit that the rat bugs care about. I would say that obviously, buddy, this house has a lot of walls. It's got to have brick walls, built brick by brick, you could say. Just another brick in that wall, and yeah, that's vital. I think there's one room with the giant inflatable pig in it. Just crammed into the room, just like fully inflated as well. And people just don't talk about that room. Like, it's just in there. It's just the pig room.
I went to an art gallery in Sydney and they had a room that was just a huge inflating ball. And it was the funniest thing. I didn't know it was going to be there. It was the funniest thing to just walk into a room, huge inflating ball taking up the whole room.
Yeah.
Walk away, come back, and the ball's small again, and it's just re-inflating.
Whoa.
So I'm moving into this house. I'm loving it.
That sounds great. There are like each separate wings of the house in my mind, each for the members of the Floyd. and
Ooh.
there are large portraits of them in each of the rooms, like Renaissance style paintings of them that are like just dominate the whole room and have eyes that watch you, that kind of feeling. But they're like holding their instruments as well. Like there's just like David Gilmour at like a theremin, but like he's dressed like the Archbishop of Canterbury, like, you know. Like just depicted on like a 15-foot painting. That's what I want for this house. That's basically all I've got. I want the big house on the hill energy. I think that is the house that Floyd built.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot.
Cool.
I'm moving in.
Yeah. The rent's very good. In fact, you don't have to pay anything. You just have to move in, and you can't move out.
Yeah. I've never heard about this plan going wrong. I'll do it.
We will also destroy the house that you currently live in, but that's after you move.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right. So my version of this house that would sync with Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Is it's not going to be cozy because this house is made entirely of brutalist metal.
Ooh.
And it's very like big open spaces, lots of like you're seeing the metal, you're seeing the rock, the iron, everything's there. But just growing through the middle of this house and kind of steering this house on where it goes is a beautiful tree.
Ooh.
It's just a big, big tree growing through the middle of this house.
That's very nice.
And that's my house that syncs with Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh.
Now, what is wild is you and I were going to record this on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
No, on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now a Wednesday.
Yes, sorry.
What happened in between was I went to a meeting at my work on Monday, and it was with some like interior designer types. They started describing a building in Dubai that is exactly this building.
Whoa, what? You're telling me that the Pink Floyd house exists?
Yeah, the Netherlands Pavilion in Dubai, designed by V8 Architects, is a brutalist, like, pyramid-y building with a big tree in the middle. And I could not bring myself to say, guys, this is the house I imagined would sync with Dark Side of the Moon that I was going to talk about on my podcast.
Wow.
Yeah. It's real, and I think the tree in there is a fake tree that can grow mushrooms, so even more psychedelic rock and roll.
I'm trying to see. Oh my god, this place is wild.
Yeah.
What? It looks crazy. What was the first part? The something pavilion? Sorry, the
Netherlands Pavilion.
Netherlands, right? I think I'm looking at the right thing. Yeah. Whoa.
I don't think there's many other houses that are. I guess this isn't a house, but that are brutalist with a big tree in the middle. So
I think this is exactly it. It even kind of looks like the album. Is the crazy thing, right? Like, that's the wild part, is that it's got like all the same shapes going on.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Cool. What a find. Oh wow, great. Well, we'll have to provide a link to the Netherlands Pavilion in the description.
We will do, in the show notes.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right.
Great work, everyone.
And speaking of providing, James, can you please provide me with the film we're going to watch and discuss next week?
Yes, of course I can, Gareth. I'm a benevolent ruler. I'm a very kind person, Gareth, and everyone should trust me. And it's my... I'm getting married coming up, obviously. Making this up. It's not at all true, but it's you're invited to the wedding of the season. But my bride-to-be, there's a pesky problem that I'm trying to take care of and trying to stop this from happening. I
do not know what this film is, by the way.
Oh, mate, my young princess is going to be marrying me. And yes, she will be my bride. It's The Princess Bride, Gareth. This week coming up, one of my all-time favorite movies. And yeah, because we're running out of like of films that exist in the world. I've got my favourites coming up. Basically, I think I'm going to run through a fair few of them. And yeah,
good.
So, Princess Bride coming up. Here we go.
You listeners can also be the bride of a princess by logging on to facebook.com and just clicking every link you see.
Oh,
I'm sure one of them will end up with you marrying a princess.
That's a good idea.
And one of those links can be the Facebook page for this podcast.
Yeah.
Or the Twitter page at Floyd Pod. You can email us. Email us your favorite princess scams.
Oh, yeah.
To syncfloydpod@gmail.com. And until next time, I've been Gareth Blackler.
I've been James Barron.
You've been 19 and shivering. And we'll see you on the dark side of the moon.
That was my best lap dance.
Maybe you want me?
I'm an outlaw.
That scared the cat. The cat meowed at me.